A former U.S. Secretary of Education is part of an amicus brief in a religious freedom case. The case involves a high school football coach who was fired for silently praying after every game. Former U.S. Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos says in part, quote, if a teacher or coach cannot silently pray while employed at a public school, what is left of the First Amendment for them? The idea that the separation of church and state is some sort of invitation for the government to forcefully separate people from their faith is appalling. And join me now is Betsy DeVos, former Secretary of Education. Secretary DeVos, welcome back. So great to see you. For
Thanks,
those
Grace.
who aren't that familiar with this case, you're welcome. Can you quickly tell us more about it and also why you decided to get involved in co-writing an amicus brief?
Sure. Well, Coach Joe Kennedy, for a long time, had a habit of, after his football games, going to the center of the field and taking a knee and silently praying after the game, not coercing or encouraging or suggesting that anyone else should join him, but of course welcoming anyone who did. And the school district told him he had to stop doing that. And he was going to have to choose between continuing to do that or being fired. And so this case has made its way all the way to the Supreme Court. And I'm very hopeful that the Supreme Court will once again reaffirm an individual's right and privilege to be able to express their faith openly and without, without worry of being fired or ostracized in some other way. This is a very fundamental religious freedom First Amendment issue, and it's just a shame that it has gone this far, but the Supreme Court has decided to hear the case.
Yeah, and talk to us a little bit more about why this case is so important when it comes to religious freedom.
Well, I think our freedoms as faithful people of faith have been under assault from many different angles for a long time, and this is just another important test of that. The First Amendment guarantees each of us that we can freely and openly practice our faith and our religious beliefs. But somehow that's gotten twisted by many along the way to suggest that government somehow has to keep people from expressing faith in a public setting or public sphere in any way. So when a case like this comes all the way up to the Supreme Court, and a teacher or a coach like Coach Kennedy is threatened with either deciding between keeping his job or being able to practice his faith, it is a very fundamental First Amendment issue, religious freedom issue, and it's an important one, a foundational one on which this country was founded, and so many people fled their native homes and countries coming to this country to be able to practice their faith openly.
Yeah, and I know this isn't your first time advocating for religious freedom at public schools. Can you tell us a little bit about why you used your role as Education Secretary to ensure that the First Amendment was upheld?
Well, sure. We took several steps to, again, reaffirm and reassert the importance of religious freedom and the First Amendment while I was in office. One of the things we did was reaffirm through updated guidance an individual's right to be able to pray in a public school. That is a right that cannot or should not be taken away from anyone, Coach Kennedy among them. And we updated the guidance to, again, make sure all public schools know what their obligations and responsibilities are in that regard. For higher education institutions, we reaffirmed through guidance, updated guidance again, that a faith-based school's mission is one that can and should be pursued and upheld without fear of having their accreditation yanked. Another area that we pursued and updated and reaffirmed for institutions was competitive grants, particularly in the higher ed world, many faith-based institutions, and I think a number of the HBCUs in particular, were being denied the opportunity to apply for some of these competitive grants because of their faith-based mission. We took that to task and pointed out the unconstitutionality of it, and that was corrected, and those institutions now have every opportunity to apply for grants as well.
We have a little less than a minute left, but I want to talk about this. I know you have a book that's coming out this summer. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Love to. It's called Hostages No More. And it's really my story about the fight for education freedom and the future of the American child. I've been fighting for education freedom and the right for parents to choose the best fit for their child's education at the K-12 level for over 30 years. And that continued while I was serving in Washington. And so this is going to be a compilation of a little bit memoir, a lot about the policies that we have pursued and stories about schools I've visited, and then importantly, where I think we need to go from here. And this is a really important moment in time where families are feeling more than ever the need to have the control and say over their kids' education. And this will give parents and families some tools to be able to do that.
Well, Secretary DeVos, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. So good to be with you today.
Thanks, Tracy. Thanks for the opportunity.